how
So
are
we're
you?
gonna start this meeting because everyone's here but Barbara, but she'll be here momentarily. So we're gonna start the meeting. Call the meeting to order at 5:38. I need an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Okay. The only thing I am going to tell you is that we will move the budget overview from the 6:10 slot to right after the consent agenda. But other than that, I don't believe there's any additions or subtractions. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstaining? We have an agenda. Thank you. Communications with parents, citizens, and staff. Looks like we're alone. All right. Board professional development. We don't have anything under there tonight. Consent agenda. Would someone want to make a motion?
So moved.
Second?
No discussion unless someone wants to pull something off of there that they didn't like. Hearing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstaining? Consent agenda passes. Perfect. Budget overview.
Okay, so you got like the super abbreviated version at last meeting. So we'll do, you can spend as much or as little of time on it as you and your chair would like. But this is the budget proposal for 2021. Hi, Barbara. Last year, just a reminder, the RNESU increase was under 0.5%. 4 years out of merger, we have exercised all of our efficiencies and identified our ends. Also a reminder that the central office exists only to support the ends identified by the sending school districts. We do not exist on our own. Everything that the central office does, every function that we have, business office, special education, transportation, technology, has to be done somewhere, either by every school or by every district or centralized. And so it is centralized because we remained an SU. So that's just kind of, I bring that up because sometimes people say, well, let's just cut out central office. You can't. You would have to repeat the same functions multiple times if you did that. Nice try, though. Again, a reminder that our drivers that lead us to the budget recommendation tonight are the ends policy, not just RNESU, but also the district ends policies. Our goals, which are the ways to meet the ends, with a focus of equity of opportunity for student achievement and efficiency in delivery. And I just gave you an example in the PowerPoint of the, not an example, I gave you the wording of the ends policy and the goals. Then also, just a reminder, the RNESU budget includes special education, transportation, and our administrative infrastructure of curriculum, technology, the superintendent's office, which includes the board support, business office, and the centralized elementary facility management that we took on after the merger. It doesn't, I'm sorry, okay. It doesn't come out of the SU budget
Correct.
because it's assessed to the member districts.
Yeah.
But it is,
Managed.
we manage it here, but it's actually assessed directly to the districts. Again, to remind you, we have already spent quite a bit of time, I'm on the organizational chart. You're not following with my fingers, and I don't understand why.
What is
There you go.
Way ahead of
We
me.
have already
What did
spent
I
quite a
miss?
bit of time working on the efficiencies and trying not to duplicate services across the SU. So this just kind of reminds you again what's part of the SU. What's not in the budget we're talking about tonight, but is a huge part of supporting the work that is done for student achievement, is the federal dollars that get passed through the RNESU budget. And so I just want to take a moment to tell you what they are so you're aware of them. These federal dollars, we get $999,257 in Title I. I comment that on the side, the standard allocation is $740,000. The discrepancy in all of these is that we had some carryover monies. So we actually get $740,000, and we're allowed to carry over, I think it's for up to 18 months. So if we don't exactly spend it, if we don't fill a position that we budgeted for, then it ends up being carried over, and we have to spend carryover first. Title II-A, Title I is mostly focused on direct instruction to students in literacy and math. That is the purpose of that grant. Title II-A is, Kristen, focused on
Yeah.
PD, professional development of both staff and administrators, and our normal allocation is $195,000. And Title IV's regular allocation is $120,000, and its focus is
Richmond Technologies, that's
SAP. Then we also do file for Medicaid, medical administration claims, and school-based Medicaid services, and we receive approximately $300,000, or we have approximately $300,000 in that account right now. That account is not restricted in its use, it's prevention and intervention primarily, right? But
It can't be used for preschool, and it can't be used for special education, although special education draws the money down.
Right, that's right. And the reason for that is it's supposed to be help prevent special education needs by early intervention, but not preschool early intervention. And then we, as an employer, are an ESU, will often fund positions such as the facilities management or the federally funded positions or the itinerant teachers or transportation positions that are shared among the two districts as a pass-through. So they're hired here so that they have a whole contract, but they get billed out to the district that's using them. So for example, Steve Eaton, our facilities manager, gets billed out to Barstow, Neshabie, and Lothrop, because that's the three schools, so that means Barstow and Outer Valley. That's the two districts that came together to hire that position. So that's how we manage it. Questions so far?
What does SAP stand for?
Oh, Student Assistance Program, but our SAP, the SAP counselor is a position that focuses on drug and alcohol prevention in our students. Good question. This year also on the Medicaid budget, we have moved, Marcia's been advocating for some time, and that finally this year we moved all of our contracts with Rutland Mental Health and Counseling Services of Addison County into the Medicaid and out of the local budget, so that it is truly a prevention-funded amount. So, what we are bringing to you is a 7.8% increase from the FY20 budget to the FY21 budget. That's a $728,809 increase. Let me tell you why. But as I get to the telling you why, we want to show you some trends. This slide shows trends and shows that the investment of money, even at the RNESU level, is primarily in direct student instruction and student support. If you look at those first three categories, direct instruction, for example, would be our special educators and our academic interventionists. Student support and instructional staff support also are within those categories, and that's where the bulk of this money goes. The other areas of general administration, school administration, fiscal services, facilities, not so much. Transportation also is a direct, we consider that a direct student service. So where are the changes? The instructional support staff is technology and curriculum. Transportation is up. You can see that is about a 1.25% increase. And it's up primarily to the rising costs of fuel and maintenance, and then just the general cost of living increases. And the increases in direct instruction and student supports are because these are staff-heavy budgets, and the salary and benefits increase anticipated for next year by contract indicate that increase. So direct instruction, for example, this is not additional staff, this is salary and benefit increases for the most part. Next one. We're primarily seeing that increase in the salary. We're having difficulty, in fact, hiring staff, particularly around in custodians and transportation staff in this stronger economy. Benefits, we recommend will be staying status quo, but even that has a cost of living increase because the anticipation came out of VHI that it was going to be up 12.9%. but we're anticipating status quo for the first 6 months. The next 6 months is waiting on the commissioner, on the state commission report. It did just come out this afternoon, we have not analyzed it. So again, it's salary and benefits primarily. This is just another way of looking at the budget changes. I want to note that the bus budget, the transportation budget, is actually a negative. It's going down, and that's primarily because we're leasing only 3 buses this year, but we are ending 6 leases, so there's a decrease in that cost. Yet 2 other visual ways of looking at the proposed expenditure budget. We need to provide these graphs at the, in our annual reports, and so we'd like you to see them first. Just an update, this is our 2nd year of centralizing technology, and it has been very effective and efficient to do so. This year, that department led the access card system, which is quite a large project to take on. They have repositioned staff to eliminate a previous position, so they have intentionally reduced a position. They have been working significantly on aligning our critical data systems to support the new state reporting systems, which has been tremendously time-consuming and difficult. They increase technology training to key administrative staff, and they provide professional development to support and maintain their own skill sets. You have to stay on top of this. Okay, so what are we really asking for? 7.8%. We budgeted salaries per our earlier executive session conversations. Health insurance premiums increased by 12.9%. And again, this does not yet analyze the decision that just came out from the arbitrator. We're recommending that board and employees shares remain the same for the first 6 months until the state commission takes over, and that HRA and HSA amounts remain level. But this is nearly 6% of that 7.8% budget increase. Salaries alone, without increasing staffing significantly, salaries alone are 5.91% increase of the total budget. Special services, there are no proposed changes other than truing up the budget for graduating students and adjusting for out-of-district tuition placement costs. But I do want to note that Marcia continues to keep a very close eye on our services and her budget and making sure that the 2 are in alignment. And she is returning 2 out-of-district students into the district this year, more fully utilizing the North Campus and reducing significant costs while making sure that we're providing the services that students need. It seems as though since I've been here year after year, special services basically saves us. Our overall budget. It is the largest portion of the overall budget, but it also is significantly cost-effective, the way Marcia keeps an eye on it. So I wanted to point that out. And I already talked about the transportation replacing 3 buses instead of 6, but we did have to increase our vehicle maintenance upward and our fuel budget upward as oil prices have gone up. Just also for background information, 1% is $88,000 on the budget, and 1% on assessment is $58,000. Continuing through the changes, we had already, for this year, increased the CIA director position from a 90% to 100%, but we're not suggesting any more changes next year. We just have to true up the budget to match that change for next year. But we're not changing the position again. Are we, Kristen?
No.
Thank you, Kristen. I already noted that the technology department reanalyzed their funds and shifted funds from a part-time position to fund college student interns, which is very smart because we need to grow our own here. And they maintained their equipment budget and had to increase software costs using an industry standard average of 10%. Board, the board spent $4,800 for training out of $5,000 budgeted. We level funded negotiations, level funded honorariums, but those are the things that the board budget covers. Superintendent, we have no proposed staffing changes. Business office, we have no program or staffing changes. However, we do want to point out that we are going live on a new accounting software chosen by the state in January, mandated by the legislature. That also has been a significant amount of work and continues to be as we prepare for that to happen. And I think I have said earlier, but I want to say it again, we do not have 100% confidence in the software that the state has chosen. We want to be upfront and honest about that. We have been honest with the state. And as a result, we'll probably be carrying costs of two software for a while until we do have 100% confidence. We cannot not make payroll.
There's 6% increase, salary increase.
It's salary and benefits.
Yep, salary and benefits, is that across the entire SU, including business office?
All the RNESU employees grouped together, they aren't getting a 6% increase.
Mhm.
No, that's not what it is. But the budget, because it's staff heavy and drives the budget,
But it includes business office, it includes teacher contracts?
No,
Well, only special ed teachers.
only the RNESU employees, and RNESU does employ special education personnel and academic interventionist personnel, and a few others small, like preschool, I think, is also under here, preschool personnel. But not the whole teacher contract, no.
Yeah, the triple E, the early essential education staff are under here, that's special ed for preschool. So
Okay.
that's also in this budget.
But the full teacher, you'll see the general teacher increases in both the Barstow budget and the Otter Valley budget, because those are the employers
Mhm.
for the majority of teachers.
And all the special
And the-
para educators are in this budget, the RNES.
Yeah, the bus drivers.
And the bus
all that.
drivers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this,
Custodians?
No custodians, no custodians.
Just the one here.
Which we now went to a contracted service.
Oh.
because of
She
where we had the time.
retired.
She retired.
This is just a slide that tells you how RNESU does provide a service to pass through some shared positions and what we're doing. The facility management, for example, is shared between both Barstow Unified and Otter Valley Unified. 2 FTE pre-K teachers are shared among Barstow, Lothrop, Neshabie, and Whiting, so that's 2 different employing districts, so we purchased them through here. Barstow and Otter Creek Academy share a librarian, and we can't, unlike Lothrop and Otter Creek Academy shares a nurse and an art teacher, and that's all within one employer. But the librarian that's shared is 2 employers, and that's why it's passed through here. Same with the itinerant nurse. You're right, Lothrop, that doesn't go through here. That one was a mistake, right?
Oh.
My bad. That was, yeah, so we can take that one off. And then transportation services that are purchased above and beyond our getting to and from school. The Otter Valley purchases from us the Stafford vocational run, the after-school late runs, and homeless child transportation is something else that goes through
So-
this office.
So when you run them through here and pass them off on certain hours at each school, sure timesheets and whatever, break the time up, do they have mileage expenses and all of that stuff?
Yeah, all of that is prorated.
So that their show up is here?
Yes.
Right, so in the transportation budget, we determine, based on last year, how much we spent on fuel and maintenance, and we literally divide it by how many miles we ran. We get a per mile fee, and then we look at each bus and assign approximate number of miles based on what they're doing and how long a route is to determine how much should be charged to that district for those miles, and they pay for those as well.
We can't really tell you how this plays out until after we have all the state information in mid-December. We never can. I mean, this isn't unusual this year. It's this way every year. However, RNESU budget does not really generate a tax rate. It generates an assessment to the schools, and each school district then determines their budget with that assessment. We used an approximate assessment as we developed the 2 different school district budgets. So Otter Valley's had their presentation, and we use 7% as a placeholder in their but that'll be trued up.
Excuse me.
Yes.
So how do you think, Brenda, the information about the healthcare might change this?
So, I have not read the report that came out
This afternoon.
30 minutes ago.
It was an hour.
Nor have I incorporated it into any of these
No,
numbers.
right, and I understand that. So
Preliminarily, when we were building the budget, we had a side-by-side of what the two were proposing. And with the financial cost of both of them were very approximately the same.
okay,
They are a tad bit less generous than what we currently offer because they used a 65%, board-funded out-of-pocket cost. So 65% if you're a single plan, 65% on 2,500, and if you're any other plan, a two-person, a parent, child, or a family, 65% on 5,000. We, before that, were paying 2,100, no, 2,100, $400 not. So we were paying 2,100 versus 65% of 2,500. So there's a little bit there that we will see. When I looked at it very, very, very preliminarily, I looked at it and I said, the effects are perhaps the difference between somebody going from a buyout to a family plan. So, which is something, we do our best. We literally meet with each principal and each supervisor, and we do ask about, do you know of anyone who's having their first baby? Or, do you know of anyone who might be getting married? We do kind of ask those questions, and we kind of make those estimates in the budget. But, they can change, obviously. So I don't see it as a savior in big numbers.
and I wasn't thinking of savior. Actually, I was thinking of
How much
of
of
it
it
was
is-
it was gonna cost us.
I think we are going to be safe. Like
Okay.
I said, I think it gives us a
It
little
also
bit of
only
a
covers
cushion.
half the year.
And it only covers half the year.
Right, yes.
Because the
So
first
it's-
half of the year
You can
is
plan for the
exactly
next year.
what we have it budgeted.
Okay.
It might, and I don't know until you have a chance to look at it, it might open up a little bit more, access for employees to access insurance. For example, they don't prorate the
part-time.
employer from
Right, it's
part-time to
17.5%.
full-time. Since we
And
already.
this budget will not be affected by that. I don't know that we have
17.5 hours.
very many, if any, part-time people. Maybe a couple of.
Yeah, I don't anticipate it will be big. And then we would be able to plan for the next year.
Okay.
It does increase the employee share, for support staff over the next couple of years, which is helpful to the board.
Right, and then the other thing that it doesn't account for is, so the health commission is going to, and those HRA and HSA limits are calendar year, but VHI Visbit is still running their premium changes fiscal year. So the 12, I know, right? I don't know how I'm gonna account for all of this, but so for the fiscal year, the insurance will be 12.9%. And the second half of the fiscal year may see a little bit more savings. But as Jean said, it's only the second half, and when I looked at it very preliminarily, I thought, it's really just a cushion about whether someone changes a plan from a lesser, single to married, a single to parent-child, any of those things.
We're always liable for that anyway.
Right, you can never predict that.
Other questions?
Yep.
We have this lady's Good job putting it together.
So I only have one other question. And this is just a clarifying question. So when we're out there in public speaking about why our NESU is 7.8%, essentially we can say it has most things to do with the fact that healthcare costs are rising 12.9%, transportation costs are rising due to fuel
And maintenance.
and maintenance, but we are not bringing on any new staff, actually, we've cut a couple positions,
That's correct.
okay,
So
That-
I would-
yeah.
And I might have missed the last meeting, I'm sorry. Are we voting on this tonight? Is this what's happening? Cause I might have a problem with that. Cause I'm also on other committees doing the same thing, and this is a big difference than what we are talking about in other places. So, it's a huge jump, that's all I'm gonna say, in
Mhm.
in what is going around in the other areas of the school. And that's it.
So ask some more questions about that.
Yeah,
Well, as we are I'm in first time doing the negotiations for the teachers, and we are not putting in insurance as a factor. So to have
But you still, that's correct. If I can.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
please
Yeah,
explain.
Yeah, so that's correct, when you're, what you're not doing is you're not negotiating health insurance at the table. That's because the state took it off the negotiating plate of the local school districts, and the state is negotiating it. We are still liable for paying for what the state is negotiating. So this budget includes the cost of health insurance per the state negotiations. I mean, you still have to pay
In other
for it,
words-
you're still providing it.
In other words, the 7.8% would look a lot different if the 12% was removed
That's right.
from this, and then you
Or a
just looked
portion
at
of the health
salaries,
insurance in this.
Right.
crossing, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
does that
Yeah.
make some sense?
That is a better understanding of what's
Yeah,
going on.
yeah.
So I'm like, this is not,
And-
this is like the total opposite direction
And
of
then-
what we have been talking about,
Right,
so.
so what we were saying there is we aren't negotiating health insurance
This
at
is
the
our
table any
contribution
longer.
to the health insurance that the
State
state.
negotiates it, we get billed.
Right,
Yeah, and then I just wanna reiterate what I said to Chris earlier. When we're talking about a 6% increase in salary and benefits, that doesn't mean that our staff are getting a 6% increase. I wanna be really clear about that, that does
Yeah.
not mean that. This builds in the amount that the boards have agreed to in executive session, which I can't go on camera and
Right.
say, cause that's part of negotiations. But it is not that. So, that is the 6%, when I say that 6%, what I'm saying is 6% of the 7.8% increase is attributable to salary and benefits. And
Right.
1.8 or 1.6% of this increase is attributable really to the transportation increase cost primarily.
So if I can kind of put something in perspective, so
I like that word
attributable. Approximately half of our staff, or 40% of our staff included in this budget, are paraprofessionals. And the cost of benefits for paraprofessionals exceeds the cost of their salary. So when, a big piece of their compensation package goes up 12.9%, a piece that's bigger than their salary, it disproportionately looks different.
What's the total number of staff on the payroll?
So let's see, in rough numbers, because I don't have that. There are 33 bus drivers, and they're all part-time, so they don't count as one. They're most of them. Maybe there's 2 or 3 that are full-time. There are approximately 60 paraprofessionals in 3 categories: program paras, interventionists,
Individual and program are
job-
the same, intervention specialists and job coaches.
Approximately 45 teachers in your realm. And in this office, about 12, 13 positions, 14 positions. Most of those are all full-time. So 150. Interesting. Right, we all know I didn't add that in my head.
Oh,
but-
thank you, thank you. I just wanted
I
to
did.
make sure I had it
Thank you.
clear.
And it's a difficult budget to pare down. Your talking points are exactly right. It is not adding to the central
Mhm.
office, but it's taking the existing mandated positions and adjusting them for, what we anticipate to be the salary and benefits, and then the increased costs in transportation that, we're already seeing.
So if you look at this slide, and you remember 7.8% is the increase, of that 7.8%, less than 3% is for salaries. Approximately 2 and a little bit, between, 2 and 2.1 is for benefits. The professional services, most of those are out-of-district tuition placements, as about 1% of that change. Repairs, maintenance, professional services is not tuition, that's the other one. Professional services is OTPT, those type of things. And as well as the software increases. And then the repairs and maintenance is mostly buses and a little bit of this actual building. Tuition and communication, so that's bus radios, and it's weird that the state puts those together, but that's the out-of-district tuitions for students, bus radios, things like that. Support and utilities, that's our fuel, bus fuel and heat here. The buses, of course, go negative, and then, the dues and miscellaneous is pretty much non-existent. So that's, so when you're, maybe that makes it look a little bit better, so when you think of that 7.8%, as Jean said, less than 3 is attributable to salaries.
But combined salaries and benefits are.
It's the
Right,
5.9.
the 5.91.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was good.
Pam, do you have some more questions on it?
You are asked to vote on it tonight. It is the second meeting you've had it. But you're asked to vote on it tonight because the RNESU budget has to play through the Otter Valley and Barstow budgets. So if you don't vote on it tonight, then you would need a special meeting to vote on it before they have to finalize theirs, because they need to know the impact of the assessment coming out of RNESU. For December 25th.
And again, you said the salaries is for 125
Wanna meet at
people?
my house?
Was that the number?
Depends on what you're serving.
How many people? Again, you said the salaries are for 125 people?
150.
150 people?
Right. Not all full-time, his drivers
No,
are not
that's-
full-time. So, 125, 130.
150, somewhere like that.
It's just always so incredible to me that somebody's health care costs more than their salary.
Yeah.
But just to put it in perspective, I'm not making a statement other than, we do provide health care for the full 12 months, and they work for 10. So that's part of their reason, but it is also because they are not, they're not extremely highly paid positions.
So they work 178 days a year. I always like to point that out. So that's how the benefits can be higher, because 178 days a year is not,
A lot of times.
A lot of
they're
days.
here.
365 days.
Yeah,
So-
but the benefits are 365.
but the benefits are 360.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Makes it a good job if you're gonna work as a para.
Right.
To have your benefits.
It does, and we do offer benefits for family as well, and,
The commission came down on that?
yeah, they said. So it is, and there are some folks who work for the benefits. That's right.
What tuitions, just curious, tuitions, what does that push through here?
Marcia?
So tuitions in this budget, the special education tuitions, would include out-of-district for any special ed students who might be at, for instance, Sheldon Academy, Vermont Achievement Center, because our capacity in our local school can't meet their need. And those are elementary students mostly. Because of North Campus, we're able to service our oldest students in district. There might come a day, we've never serviced our elementary schools centrally. We might have to based on need, we're very fluid, but right now we have 4 students, elementary age.
And you're bringing back to?
And those are older students. So we're bringing back 2 high school students, one who's residentially placed out of state. You won't see that in the budget because that's a pass-through. The state pays for this residential placement, so we're reimbursed for that. We also have some tuition for choice students in here, which would include special ed students from the towns of Mendon and Chittenden who choose schools and have excess costs for special education. So we serve as their LEA, so we go to all their meetings for the students in the towns of Mendon and Chittenden since they don't have an operating school, and they choose any of the high schools in the state, and we have to attend, and they also get services there that we're responsible for payment of. So if you think of tuitions, those are two
Yeah,
good ways
That's a
to
good
look
way,
at it.
yeah.
We don't spend a lot of money sending special ed students out of tuition if we can prevent it, because we've always had our North Campus, which over the years has always morphed, and it provides us with local placement, which reduces our costs.
Do we ever have people ask to place, students into our district?
Yes, we have a student right now on North Campus that another district has placed because of the, unique offerings at North Campus that we have. They couldn't service the child in their district, and he moved to them, he was with us, so they asked us to keep in and pay for him to come.
They do that, yeah. They do.
Awesome. That's good. Any other questions? Hearing none, we do need a motion.
So moved.
Okay?
So you need an amount.
Yep, so yeah, if you could give us the amount, yes, it was Brenda. Barbara. So,
The-
yeah,
The amount is 10 million. Oh, yeah, I could put up the slide. It's in the middle. The 10,077,450.
okay. So all those that approve a budget for fiscal year 21 of $10,077,450, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstaining? We have passed an RNESU budget.
Thank you.
Thank you very
And
much for your hard
Thank you
work.
to you three for sticking around and
Go home.
answering questions and preparing it.
Do you want me to go to the deli?
Yeah, go to the liquor store.
I was gonna say.
I don't know.
Should I take orders?
But I wouldn't buy anything more, I'd have to take her with me.
That's right, I know, right?
Best chocolate you
That's
can
true.
buy.
Okay,
I saw the sign.
well, I appreciate that you offered it to me.
It was my, secret elf gift.
Isn't that funny that's still up even though I closed it?
That's yeah, yeah.
Is it you?
No.
No, because I'm not on that slide. Would you mind turning off the projector? We don't need it.
Isn't that weird?
Yes.
Look, it's
Yeah, I know,
gone.
I
It's
see it.
closed.
All right.
So when you go to your room, we're gonna see your emails and numbers.
Yeah.
Can you send that to her, please? The
Yes.
That's a
PowerPoint?
good reason to
I
just
ordered
go
at the
home,
deli.
get out
Okay.
of here.
So, we're gonna move on to superintendent informational report.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Was the internal controls part of consent agenda?
It was.
Okay, so you don't need me at all? Thank
No,
you.
do you want this? Do you
Have a
need
nice
this? Should I
holiday.
give this to her?
Did
Well,
you sign it?
yeah.
I signed it before the meeting.
Does Melinda need a copy or just you?
I usually give it to Melinda.
Okay, good. There you go. Did I give you Outer Valleys? Because she signed that one too.
I signed that last week, though.
I,
It might be on Melinda's list.
okay, that's me. Have a nice holiday,
See you.
everyone.
You
too.
You too.
Okay.
Okay, Charlene, it's been shared. Okay. So, thank you for that. Superintendent report. Let me get to it. Behind all these minutes that you have. Okay. Gosh, it feels like I wrote this so long ago. It was December 4th is what? Not even a
Last
week?
week.
It feels like it was forever ago. So at that time, I was excited to tell you about Governor Scott's visits, 2 visits in the district. I will say that our Whiting childcare partnership is getting a great deal of attention. Yesterday, Rebecca Holcomb visited the program, and today, Kate Webb, the House Education Chair, and a couple of other legislators came and visited the program. I did notify Kate directly about a recent concern that's arisen about how families who receive childcare subsidies now are having their pre-K subsidy deducted from that, the 10 hours of pre-K. Never was like that until about a week or 2 ago. Suddenly surfaced. Bill Mathis believes it's illegal, actually. And the impact of that is it would force parents to pull their kids out of pre-K in order to keep their full childcare subsidy, or else they're gonna have to pay towards their childcare. And that is completely opposite the intention of the pre-K law. So, Becky had also commented, called me yesterday to make sure that I informed the legislature about that, and so, both the gubernatorial candidate and the legislature are aware that this is an issue.
So
now,
I'm a little confused in that, so.
So if you are eligible for a full-time childcare subsidy, then
Okay,
you can put your child in
Anywhere.
childcare, and it's paid for by the state.
mhm,
And it has always been that the 10 hours of free pre-kindergarten that you get,
right,
that's passed through us, is separate from that.
correct,
And so if you're in a childcare program and your child leaves to go to 10 hours of pre-K, you should not have to pay for that childcare. But the childcare full-time subsidy is at anything beyond 26 and a half hours. So if you're in a 40-hour childcare and you leave for 10 hours of pre-K, you still have 30 hours of childcare, but the state is instead deducting it from your subsidy. And so now suddenly a parent of a single child might have to pay $60 a week for that childcare, or choose to withdraw their child from pre-kindergarten to keep their full child. And that just doesn't,
yeah, now I get it.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
silly. I'm hoping that it's somebody new who interpreted something wrong and said, oh, look. We'll see how it plays out. But it's absolutely
So
against
that's
the whole
happened?
purpose of trying to get, yeah, it just started playing out.
Yep.
Thank you guys for pushing it up the ladder
Yeah,
to
well,
get attention on
I
it.
heard about it from you, but also Becca, our childcare supervisor, was really articulate in explaining it yesterday. Trying to think if there are some other major,
Has there been any
Things to talk
movement on, bringing a childcare partner to the south end?
well, we continue to look. Becca informed us yesterday that she might be interested in opening a second center. So we're gonna have a conversation with her. We continue to look for a partner at either Barstow or Lothrop or both schools. It's really been it's a nice benefit for families to have a full-day childcare right in the school with pre-K embedded in there. And the fact that you're not paying for the childcare, you're just offering the space for the business, Becca explained, allows her to actually pay her employees a little bit more because she's not paying the overhead of the building.
Right.
And you kind of are responsible for that overhead of the building anyway, so it's a really nice benefit to the community, to do it that way, so.
It's also another reason why childcare and pre-K dollars shouldn't be
it is
separated, because teachers would not be retained because they wouldn't be getting paid any money.
That's right, we had that conversation, as a matter of fact, too.
It's too bad it didn't go in Barstow, just,
We're still trying.
I know, yeah, but just gotta find somebody. Cause I think the want is definitely there.
I think it is too. We need to find the provider. So that's it.
Okay.
Everyone's in budget session.
Brenda, are you considered?
Let's see, so moving on,
So you have two monitoring
monitoring
reports to come, and these come with evidence, as I believe, yep. I didn't go back and delete. You'll notice that last time I brought you evidence for the first three, and then this time or four, and this time I caught up, but nope, this is, okay, I'm good. This is the draft. You don't have all the evidence. You only have the first three as sample.
Okay,
So this is the interpretation review of 2.1 for tonight.
give everybody a couple of minutes to look it over. And then since this is just a draft, if people have something to say,
Or if the interpretations don't make sense, or
right,
you,
please ask
Right.
questions.
yeah.
It says BUU ends are met, so
Oh.
should that say,
It should say RNESU.
okay. I have a question.
Okay.
And this is just, it has nothing to do with your report, but
Mhm.
since all students are either a part of OVUU or
Mhm.
BUU,
Mhm.
then as far as communications with parents, citizens, and staff and confidentiality, is that only through special ed in this case, or is it all students, both districts?
It's a good question. I think when I pull the RNESU monitoring reports together, it's kind of a culmination of the two. So if I'm, in most cases, I think, because it's rare that I'm communicating simply about RNESU matters with the parent. It's probably an OVU student or a BUU student, for example.
Mhm.
So this report, I think, would be just a culmination of those two reports.
And you're the superintendent of all of it, even
That's correct.
though we're the board of RNESU.
Right,
And not OVU and Barstow.
right. But
You-
I'm
you are the
responsible for the
superintendent of-
arms as well
yeah.
as the, yeah.
Yeah. So it would make sense that it covers all of your students and parents.
It's interesting, you know, we're the only district that I know of doing it this way, where there's an SU doing policy governance with two districts doing and especially the way we staggered it as you started. And I find now that I'm doing monitoring reports for 3 boards, like that, I get really confused about because I don't do things differently for each of the entities. It's not like, oh, you're Barstow, I'm not gonna talk to you, or you're, you know, I don't do different processes for confidentiality, it's just, that's something as we go through this, we might think about over time, and maybe I combine and write a single report and take the single report to all the boards, I don't know, but it's getting a little confusing for me. And like even tonight, I couldn't remember if you were the final report, because Otter Valley just got a final 2.1, and Barstow's getting a final 2.1, but you're getting the initial 2.1, it's like, it's confusing.
The only thing I saw was under each one where it says I do/do not.
Yeah,
But,
it's
yeah.
not done because
Right.
you don't have the evidence yet,
Right.
so I'm not telling you.
Okay.
Right.
But I will tell you.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions regarding 2.1 at this time? Okay, hearing none, I guess you're good to go.
Okay, 2.4 is in the same condition. It's an initial interpretation only report. It's also interesting taking these reports to 3 different boards. They evolve with the different questions or the different readings that I give of them, so it can evolve between now and when I bring you the final report. And this one's around planning and budgeting, which is a very useful document for right now. And I
This
gave
one
you,
seems more objective, more cut and dry.
it is. And I do have most of the, evidence actually in here. But it's still an interpretation report.
Give everyone a couple of minutes to look it over. Any questions for Jean? Anybody need more time to look at it? No? No set? Okay. So hearing no, questions for Jean, then I suspect we'll see, final reports next month. Okay. Moving forward, we have already done the budget overview, annual RNESU board work plan review. We do need to identify our method of reporting our executive limitation monitoring. So for OVUU, I think we said to keep it the way we're doing it.
Yeah,
I don't know about BUU.
they're keeping it the way they're doing it as well. The particular policies you have chosen for this year don't really lend themselves to
Okay.
a third party or a direct inspection unless you have some particular concerns.
So, I would entertain a motion. Do we need a motion, or do we just need to say
You
that
know?
we? So, does anybody have a problem with sticking to the way we're getting our reports, for this year? As far as we won't be doing direct inspection, we won't be doing outside services, we'll be doing in-house. Yes? Yeah? Okay. Okay, then I guess we've figured that out too. Our next meeting is set for Wednesday, January 15th, at the OVU library at 5:15.
And that's before the Otter Valley meeting once again.
Right, cause we should go back to,
Well, you did do this one in an hour, surprisingly.
Hmm?
You did do this one in an hour, surprisingly.
5 o'clock is what I have down at.
We've been moving it a little bit to 5:15 to accommodate one of our members to
A
get there
couple,
in time.
yeah.
Actually, yeah, there's a couple. January 15th?
15.
Yep.
And take the 22nd off.
Do we need executive session for negotiations?
We don't, I can report in public session that we
Okay.
had our, what was it, Pam, our third negotiation session with the teachers last night. We have our first negotiation session with the paras and bus drivers next Monday night. And other than that, there's nothing I need to bring in executive session.
Cool. All right, so then the only thing left to do, if I read this right, was to do our self-evaluation, based on 4.0. So I was going to take the self-evaluation in the back and, nope, there's one other thing. Sorry. I have to write my RNESU board chair report. And as always, every time I sit down and look at the blank piece of paper, I'm like, did we do anything this year? Because I don't know what to write. So OVUU was very helpful to me this year, or last week, telling me all the great things that we did in OVUU so that I could write this report. So now I'm looking to you as the RNESU board to tell me all the great things we did so that I can write my report about it. Don't speak up all at once. This year, yep.
It's so, like, like years blend and I'm like,
We did move to policy governance.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Over the past year, think of.
I know, it's hard to,
Yeah, you did move to policy governance and, you started collecting monitoring reports from your superintendent. For accountability.
All the community outreach stuff we did.
I don't know, this board didn't do
This
it.
board didn't.
That's not, I know, right? We don't do anything. I
But
mean, think
thanks for
about it.
pointing it out.
See,
All
mixing together
I know. See, now you know what I'm looking at when I look at that blank piece of paper. Usually I talk about the budget a little bit.
We did the, ends retreat.
Oh, okay, I can talk about that. Yep. I will talk about the budget some to give, it some extra leverage as far as coming from
You
me.
could actually steal a little bit from that timeline.
Okay,
Otter Valley is the focus of that timeline, but I could give you some, but in general, you can talk about how since the merger, it kind of explained the makeup of, you're still two districts and quite a bit
Okay.
has happened within those districts.
sure.
Probably a shorter report from SU.
That's okay. Well, honestly, everything seems to go pretty smoothly at SU side. So, okay. So that's the only thing I needed there. Our self-evaluation, I'm just going to ask you to do I'll see what you guys have to say about, we'll do the fist of 5. We provide strategic leadership by focusing on ends. Yeah, we did the budget. So, yeah, okay. Yeah. We obtain and or consider ownership input. Yes? We obtain and or consider ownership input. We consider what they're gonna say when we see a 7.8% increase. So, yeah, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
Interesting, yeah, so then you
So what do you think? 3?
Yeah, 3.
3?
That's gonna need some explanation, I think, because people are gonna be questioning that.
Okay,
Like,
oh yeah,
not, when you say it like that, you understand it, but when you see it, you don't understand it to be that way.
Right.
absolutely.
The other thing about this budget is it's not a budget that goes to the community for a vote. It's,
Right.
what the cost of doing business is, and it becomes part of the vote on the two different district budgets.
Right, but if people want to know about it.
Yes, it's on
Absolutely.
the web, it's very
Right,
public, yeah.
absolutely. We encourage diversity of viewpoints. I'd say we do that pretty well. I wasn't cramming my opinion down your throat, so. We were proactive and future focused, which I think we were, cause it's all future stuff, budgets. We limited our decisions to items that related to the board's governance job.
I have to really compliment you on that tonight. I've sat through budget meetings where that wasn't the case.
Oh.
And I think you did.
Decisions were made collectively. Yes? Alright. Perfect. Then I will hand this off to, I will give this to you to give to Melinda.
Okay.
And I would entertain a motion to adjourn at 6:34.